Hello students, this will be the section Graphical Summaries for Qualitative Data from the chapter Graphical Summaries of Data. I would like to start with a definition. I would like to introduce you to frequency. The frequency of a category is the number of times it occurs in the data set, and a frequency distribution is a table that represents the frequency for each category. In other words, think of the count, and like frequency is the count, frequency is the count, and frequency distribution is the table of the count. Let's go over a simple example. Here we have a bowl of cereal of Lucky Charms, and we want to create a frequency distribution for the charms. You will have to count them, in this case, one by one. We're going to start with a horseshoe. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 horseshoes. And we can use tally to represent this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, that's 8. And the frequency will be in the number form 8. And then you keep on going with the other charms. For the heart, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go one by one here. I'm going to show you just the final product. We have 8 horseshoes, 6 hearts, 8 rainbows, 6 shooting stars, 7 hats, 4 pots of gold, 5 balloons, 4 blue unicorns, and 2 orange unicorns. If you want to, you can stop the video and count them yourselves, but trust me, I think it's correct. The parts for the frequency distribution are the following. Depending on the individuals you're going to collect your data from, you're going to create the nominal variables. Remember, these are qualitative nominal variables because they're not numbers and they don't have a natural order. And then for the frequency distribution, you can either use a tally count or the frequency. The most common one is the frequency, but we are also covering the tally one here. Now, frequency is just a count. Relative frequency of a category is the frequency of the category divided by the sum of all the frequencies. It's called relative because it's related to the total sum of all the frequencies. You calculate the relative frequency by dividing the frequency for each category by the total sum of all the frequencies. And a relative frequency distribution is just a table that represents the relative frequency for each category. We usually put both the frequency and the relative frequency in the same table, or in the same frequency distribution, Notice here how we calculated our relative frequency. We have a total of 50 charms, and we divided each category's frequency by 50. 8 divided by 50, 0.16. So the relative frequency for horseshoe is 0.16. The relative frequency for the heart is 0.12, and so on. And if you want to, you can also represent them in percentage form by just multiplying by 100 each of the relative frequencies, or moving the decimal point 2 places to the right and then adding the percentage symbol. Now let's go over visual representations of this frequency. The first type of graph we have for frequency would be a bar graph. You just write down all of your categories. We have the horseshoe, the heart, the rainbow, all of the variables, the nominal variables. They're a little bit diagonally because they don't fit. And then you're going to create bars that have the length for each of the frequencies. Notice how there's a space in between the bars, and this will help us distinguish a bar graph from other graphs that look very similar. It's very simple. You just map the frequencies for each of your nominal categories. Sometimes you can have also a horizontal bar graph. There's no difference between the two. It's the exact same thing. It's just that the bars, instead of being vertical, they are horizontal. In this case, I chose to do this bar graph using the relative frequency. The relative frequency is not exclusive of the horizontal bar graphs, and the frequency is not exclusive of the vertical ones. The reason why we have either horizontal or vertical is that The horizontal ones are convenient for longer names. If you notice, our nominal categories are straight and they're not diagonally written down at the base of your bar graph. And in this case, our bars have the length of each of the relative frequencies. It's no longer 8. I don't know which one was the other one. Sorry. It's not longer 8, 6, 8, 6. It's the relative frequency in decimal form. Our next type of graph for qualitative data, it's called Pareto chart. It's a bar graph, but what it has special about it is that the categories are represented or drawn in order of frequency or relative frequency in the case of a relative frequency Pareto chart. You have to arrange them from greatest to least. Notice how the highest, the categories with the highest frequency are first, and then we keep on drawing them from greatest to least. It could be relative frequency Pareto chart, or it could be a frequency Pareto chart. Notice how in this case we have it in percentage form and not in decimal form. Again, you could also have a Pareto chart that is horizontal. They don't have to be vertical all the time. Now, a bar graph could have more than one data set using the same categories or nominal categories. For example, let's suppose we have 2 bowls of cereal and we want to compare the charm count or the charm frequency for both bowls. I just made up numbers. Let's suppose that the pink one represents the bowl number 1 and the blue one represents bowl number 2. It will be easy for us to say, oh, which bowl has more shooting stars? You will say, oh, the bowl number 1, because the bar is so much greater. It is very useful when you want to compare 2 different data sets. And finally, our last graph for today will be a pie chart. It's an alternative to the bar graph. We can use it again for the relative frequency or the frequency. A pie chart, it's a circle and it's divided into sectors for each of the categories. We usually use percentages or relative frequency because it's a circle and each of the sectors represent a quantity from the total. So here's an example on how it will look with the percentages. It could have it, it could not have it, but it's easier for us to see and to distinguish which one is a category with the highest frequency if we have it labeled. If you notice, it looks like this section right here, this light purple, it has the highest frequency. Oh wait, no, this one, sorry. The hot pink has the highest frequency with 16, and the hot pink is the horseshoe. So the horseshoe has the highest frequency. In this particular pie chart. I hope you learned. I hope I wasn't going that fast. It's only 8 minutes. This video is only 8 minutes. I wanted to keep it short. That way you don't have to stay long in my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions or if you get stuck with any of the assignments. Have a great day.